welcome to the soloing out of chord shapes leading the 5 chord to the 1 chord. This lesson is going to take a look at 9 licks that start in different places of our F, A, and C chord shape and resolve back to another F, A, or C chord shape. The nature of these licks are pretty simple. In melody, they're only using chord tones, very few very few chromatics, and a decent amount of passing tones. So to kick this off, I would like just to remind that all these examples will be in the key of G. We'll start on the 5, the D, the D7, and land on the G. But all these licks can be applied going from the 1 to the 4 chord. For in the key of G, our G is our 1. If we want to go to the 4 chord, our G is the 5 of the 4 chord. It's called a subdominant. So if we went 1, 1, 7, we resolve it to the 4. It's basically going 5, 5, 7, 1. So keep that in mind. It doesn't just have a direct application to the 5 to the 1 in a given key. It can also be the 1 to a 4. So with that said, let's take a look at our first lick. This first lick is going to be out of our C chord shape, and it's going to resolve into our F chord shape. So I'm going to play it for you, then I'll break it down. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so first we're starting off on our F sharp and doing a little triplet. F sharp, G, F sharp. And then we're going to descend in a little pattern here. We'll go and play E, that's the 9 of the D. So 9 to our 3, the F sharp. Then 9 to our 1, that's the D. Then our flat 7, that's the C, to the 1. So that's the first bar. Then we go C, A, F sharp, A, F sharp, E, D, F sharp, G. So the motion of this lick can be thought as of you're bouncing off chord tones for the most part and pedaling off them, but you're also pedaling off of this 9 here, this E. Just like in that first measure, we've got so E, E, then oops. So altogether, this lick 5 to 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now moving on to lick 2, we have the same shape we're working out of the C shape, and we're going to resolve again to this F shape. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Alright, let's break that down. We've got that was one of those we did in one of the previous lessons, just using a chromatic from the 5 to the 3. Then a normal half step up to the 3. That's a very Western swing-like run. And we're just coming down the pentatonics. So D, B, A. And then we're coming down the arpeggio. C, A, F sharp, or in numbers, that's 1, flat 7, 5, 3, flat 7, 13, 5, 3, or C, B, A, F sharp. So measure 2 of example 2 is, then we're going to go so that's just finishing off on the G chord, up the arpeggio to the 13, the 6, back to the D, then we're going to approach chromatically up to the B, C, A, B flat, B. So all together, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if we go to example 3, we're going to start again in this C shape and resolve right here to this F shape. So here we're going to start on this low D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so this starts off just kind of going up our major scale for our D chord. We've got D, E, F sharp, G, or 1, 9, 3, 11. Then we come up to here. This is halfway through the first measure. We have A, B, C, D, or 5, 13, flat 7, 1. So all together, we're just... Now I like to phrase it like that. I like to go, then slide, then slide. Then we come down and play we go up and play E, the 9, flat 9, E flat, just as a chromatic, then to D, then flat 7. And now, this is going to harken back to one of the very first lessons where we do an enclosure. We're going to play D, E, F sharp, A, land on the downbeat of the third measure. So all of measure 2 for example 3 is going to go. Then we have and then that last measure on the G is we're just coming down the arpeggio. All together for example 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now moving on to example 4. We're going to change the shape here, and we're going to go up to our A shape. So this one's a little different because we can either, with this shape, resolve downward to the F shape or resolve upward to the C shape. So the next 3 examples are going to kind of switch between the two. This first example, we're going to go from our C shape, or our A shape to our C shape. And some of you who have used the cage system might kind of think of this as our A shape to our A shape to our D shape. If this is our G chord with that D shape, that'd be that common chord up there. I don't like to think of it like that. I think these chords are, I think of them more of as extensions, as I've mentioned in some previous videos. So I like to think of this one, if I'm playing the G up here, I'm really in this shape right here. And I'm using any kind of G lick thing right here as a passing area to get back to here. So with that said, let me demonstrate example 4 for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so breaking this down, we've got our first note is F sharp, the third B. So we have a little F sharp to the A, then a chromatic down to the 9, and they're popping up to the G. And typically you don't want to land on the 4 of any chord, really, of any major chord. It kind of sounds weird, but if you do a relatively quick 4, or do a kind of a sus kind of idea, you typically see it in this shape. It sounds actually pretty nice. So reason I land there is because it's really quick and it's just for an eighth note. And it's getting us ready to land into that G. So that's just one little note I like to say about that. This next phrase, we're going to slide in from our 6, sliding into the D. When I say 6, the 6th fret, sliding into the D note, playing that F sharp, and chromatic down to the C. And then landing on our E, which would be the 9 for the D. So we're getting a few, color tones in there. So we've got together the first two measures are I hope with this lick that you hear like the downward motion of what's happening. We've got we're resolving there first, and we're resolving there, and then the last phrase is quarter note, and while I said don't really think too much of this as the D shape, it is good to know your major scale right here, and that's what I'm seeing. And usually if I land right there, especially with my first finger, I'm going to go right up into this C shape. If I land on a different finger, like I'm right there. So you just kind of have to experiment with your different fingers and see which ones tend to get you to the next shape, the next area you want to play in better. And that kind of creates your own phrasing and voicing with that. So altogether, example 4, resolving to the C shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now moving on to example 5. This one, we're going to resolve from our A shape to our F shape. So example 5. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so here's what we're doing here. Starting off on our 3rd and going down to our 9. And we're going to pick a little pattern here. We're going to go 3, 9, 1, 9. So it's down, 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 up, down, 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 up. D, C, A, C. So it's down, down, up, down, down, up. Then measure 2 of it. A, G, F sharp, or 5, 11, 3. Then we're going to come up this arpeggio here. This is pretty Charlie Christian-esque, and Jimmy Bryant utilizes quite a bit in his playing. If you take this shape, you have your D9 right here. You have D, F sharp, C, E. Do this, F sharp, A, C, E, and outline that chord. You've got yourself a D7-9 arpeggio. So that's how we're going to get up there. We're going to go resolve to that D, C, and that C is going to drop us right into our B, which leads us home to this F shape. So that's so all together we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now let's move on to example 6. Now we're back to resolving to the C shape. With this one, we're going to start on our D right here and work our way up and then resolve. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this utilizes some octaves and some Tiny Moore-esque lines and some Roy Nichols. There's some Roy Nichols definitely in this one. If you're not familiar with him, he is the lead guitarist for Merle Haggard on most of the classic recordings. And Tiny Moore was Bob Wills' mandolin player, electric mandolin, and he played quite a bit with Merle Haggard and many other notable country and western swing artists. So to start this off, we're going D, F sharp, A, just our normal triad. B, F sharp, A, B, C, 13, 7. Then we're going to skip over D and play this chromatic from E to F sharp. Again, we're kind of utilizing that D9 sound. Then we're going to slide from our flat 7 up to our 1 and play the octave 1, chromatic down, major 7, flat 7. One more time. And then resolve B, G. Just out of this shape right here. C shape. So all together, example 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, now we're going to take it up to our A shape as our 1 chord and our F shape as our 4 chord. I'm going to play through this first one. It's kind of reminiscent of this lick, same kind of pattern, a little different, but we just can move it up. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so to break that down, instead of going right up the scale, I'm utilizing our flat 3rd chromatic to our 3rd. So we have D, E, flat 3, 3, F sharp. And then 5, 13, flat 7, 1. And then we're going to slide back flat 7, 13, 5, 3, 1, flat 7, 3, 5. So that's C, B, A, F sharp, D, C, F sharp, A. You're just going down the scale, then the arpeggio. Then resolving right on this G. So all together, we've got, starts up the scale and then it kind of comes down the arpeggio. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So example 8 is going to start on our E and chromatic down and land on the downbeat on our D. So it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're resolving to one of two areas. You can either think of resolving here, their pinky, or this C shape. I tend to think we're resolving to the C shape in this one. So to start off, chromatic, just like we kind of did right here, or right here. Then just going down the scale. I'm sorry, we're going down the arpeggio. So flat 7, 5, 3, 1, flat 7, 13, flat 7. And that gets us into measure 3. So we've got and then we're going to just come down we're kind of using this G chord shape from the K system to come down. Really, I think we're playing out of this C shape right here. That's the G, the home key. And we're just using the chord tones and the enclosures that make it sound like it's resolving. So we've got A, G, F sharp, D, C, A, chromatic up to B, and landing on G. So all together, example 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. last example. Example 9, we're going to resolve into this A shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so what we have going on here is we're starting on our F sharp and just playing off of the arpeggio. F sharp, A, C, then we come to the A, get to the D, and chromatic down to the C, and back up to the D. And now we're just going to play straight from the arpeggio, and we're going to play the one that's right above. So it'd be F sharp to D, 3 to 1, then A to F sharp, 5 to 1, or 5 to 3, and then 13 to 10, that's C to A, or flat 7 to 5, and then we're going to hit D, 1 again, to our flat 7, or C, and then resolve to this B. So altogether, measure 2 of example 9 is like, one more time, F sharp, D, A, F sharp, C, A, D, C, G. And all that is just outlining this shape right here. Then I'm coming up and playing pentatonics. D, E, G. And playing the octave right here. So that's... So all together, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And make sure when you do that, try and slide to get that one. That's the easiest way to get up there. So with all that said, I think it'd be really wise to just create some stock licks for yourself out of these shapes that resolve a 5 or a 7 chord to a 1 chord again, and make them simple. Make them just use chord tones and very few passing tones, and try and make them interesting that way. Because what that will lead you to do is start adding in different tension notes, like notes from the whole tone scale, and just like augmented sounds and diminished sounds that fit so well over 7 chords. For example, if we were in this shape right here, playing a D whole tone, we could go So in order to get that though, you really need to work on just getting the right notes down, the common chord tones and passing tones, and then you get to add that stuff later on. So that's something that we can look forward to kind of learning more about in the future. So with that, I hope you have something to work on and that you have a lot of fun with that. And listen to the Western swing guys, listen to the early swing players, because yes, they do embellish the stuff a lot, but they also play very simply and just make a lot out of chord tones and passing notes. So I hope you have fun with that, and thank you.